Imagine a place where art, fame, and the avant-garde collided. Welcome to Andy Warhol's factory, the epicenter of 1960s pop culture. What secrets lie within these walls? You may be asking, who was Andy Warhol? Many know the name, but not the man under the bleach blonde wig. Born in Pittsburgh in 1928 to Czech immigrant parents, Andy Warhol felt the deprivations of the Great Depression, surrounded by Byzantine Christian iconography throughout his childhood home. After finishing his studies at the Carnegie Institute of Technology, Warhol moved to New York City when the golden age of abstract expressionism was coming to its end. Not only was the art world changing, but society and daily life had seen significant shifts. An entire generation felt it, with their experiences being expressed through television, advertising, comic books, and fast food. From this commercialization of life came pop art. At this point, Andy Warhol began wearing his famous platinum blonde wig, a marker of his public persona, and he started making comic book illustrations. Once he discovered Roy Lichtenstein, who was already doing the comic book style, Warhol decided to make a change, one that would make him famous. Warhol began reproducing consumer products, most famously a series of 32 canvases from 1962 depicting every flavour of Campbell's soup, exhibited at the Ferris Gallery in Los Angeles. To create these canvases, Warhol adopted silkscreen printing, a method typically used in the advertising industry. He used this method to print simplified black and white photographs onto large canvases painted with flat colours. This industrial aspect in his art echoed the mass consumption in post-war American society, and, as intended, shocked everyone who could not understand how everyday objects could be seen as art. Initially, Warhol was met with disinterest and controversy, but Leo Castelli, a gallery manager, saw his potential. By 1962, he was a part of the first ever pop art exhibition at the Sidney Janis Gallery in New York, which was met with astounding success. This success meant that he needed more space to be able to keep up with the demand, so he moved to a firehouse on East 87th Street in early 1963. At the firehouse, Warhol embraced industrialization and commercialization, almost completely abandoning painting for modern imagery production techniques such as silkscreen printing, photography, cinema, and sound. Inspired by the array of celebrities and artists that would make their way through the firehouse, Warhol began working on a project that would solidify his legacy in art history: portraits of celebrities. This series would challenge the traditional hierarchy of art, depicting rock stars, movie stars, and celebrities such as Elizabeth Taylor, Elvis Presley, Jackie Kennedy, and most famously, Marilyn Monroe. The Marilyn Monroe portraits were inspired by the overconsumption of her image in the wake of her tragic death, turning her into a symbol of industrialization in mass media. The factory gave Warhol room to experiment, completely giving up painting for the exploration of other practices and redefine what art was in the new age of technology and celebrity. By the end of the 60s, the factory had become a hotspot for celebrities and artists from New York's counterculture scene, with David Bowie, Bob Dylan, Allen Ginsberg, and Judy Garland being just a few of the faces that passed through. The clique of quirky people who were attracted to the factory were coined Warhol's superstars and included more than just celebrities. You could find adult film actors, drag queens, socialists, poets, and so many more characters he used as inspiration for his art. Financed through the sale of Warhol's silkscreen prints for significant amounts of money, the factory began creating a series of films titled Screen Tests. These films were black and white portraits of the famous personalities that visited the firehouse. So throughout its history as a place of refuge for the celebrities of New York in the 60s, the factory had to move several times. In 1964, the factory was moved from the firehouse on East 87th Street to the 5th floor of 231 East 47th Street, where it remained until 1968. This period was the golden age of the factory. After this building was slated for demolition, the factory was moved again to the 6th floor of the Decker building on 33 Union Square West. This period saw the factory become more of a business office than an avant-garde social scene, and was where Valerie Solanas attempted to assassinate the artist in 1968. Afraid for his life, the factory was moved to a large building on Broadway, and the era of the free-spirited debauchery ended. It was now incredibly difficult to get into the factory. This was the factory's final location and is where Warhol devoted his time to screen printing until his death in 1987.